Your dreams are holding you back. How's that for a conversation starter? By that I mean something really specific, because at the ripe old age of 30, having been making music for 15 years, I've decided to let go of my dreams, to let go of all the hopes and desires and someday, one day, maybe, hopefully I could do this or I could do that kind of goals. And it's the best I've ever felt about making music. Your dreams will paralyze you if you let them. I've spent so long holding myself to this imaginary, idealized standard that I could hypothetically live up to. You know, for the majority of my music making life, I have been confident in my ability to make good stuff and to come up with interesting ideas and execute them with a decent standard of technical ability. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very grateful for that. But that has fed into this narrative that I created for myself that, because I'm capable with making music with computers, that means that I should, here's that word, okay, I want you to watch out for every time you use the word should in relation to your creative practice. Because usually it means you're doing this thing, you're setting yourself up, holding yourself to the standard that you're never actually going to reach, right? But I believe that because I was decent at it, that meant that I should be able to release on my favourite record labels, the ones that really inspired me. I believed that I should be able to get DJ bookings and play up and down the country and tour the European festival circuit and, make a living just from making tunes, putting them out, DJing, all that. I still believe that my music is interesting, innovative, proficient, effective, meaningful enough. It's of a high enough standard that I could do that. I saw what other people were doing. I saw other artists and I heard their music and I saw what bookings they were getting and where they were releasing and what agents they have and all this stuff. And when I compared just in terms of the music, I thought my music is as good as, if not better than, X, Y, and Z person. So therefore, I should be able to do what they're doing. Since then, I've realised two big problems with that way of thinking. The first is that the music isn't the only reason that they're in that position and I'm where I am. Fundamentally, I'm me and they're them. And if I were the type of person who wanted to and was capable of doing all the stuff that they're doing and keeping up a touring schedule and being in a different city every weekend and meeting loads of people and dealing with the stress and the pressure of playing all the time and traveling all the time and keeping on top of social media and posting all the time and all of the things that it takes in order to be a traditionally successful dance music artist, I would be doing that already. I think about what it actually entails, what that life actually looks like. And I realise that those dreams that I had, I'm not prepared to live the life, to make the sacrifices that I would have to make in order to make that dream a reality. That's not how I want to live my life. That's not what I'm capable of doing. I'm autistic, I'm trans, I don't come from money. These are all things that put me in a position where that's an uphill struggle for me to have that kind of life and to have that kind of mainstream success, that conventional sort of career that dance music artists are supposed to want to have. The second thing I realised is that holding myself to that imaginary, hypothetical, perfect standard that I am in theory capable of reaching was actually stopping me from doing anything. I was watching a video from John Wayne, his channel John Talks Beats, I think he has 2 channels here on YouTube. And he made this video that's about whether a dream is worth more to you as a dream or as an actual reality. And he said that you should think through all of these dreams that you have and really ask yourself, do I want this to be a reality? Am I prepared to make all of those sacrifices? Or is this worth more to me as a dream? Is it worth more to me as an inspirational thing that I know that I'm never really gonna realize?
We human beings have this really bad habit of taking dreams that we know deep down that are just nice to have as dreams and to push them into something that we would like to be a part of our reality, even though subconsciously or consciously we know that we don't want to do the work or make the sacrifices needed in order to do the thing. And we put them just outside of reach, and we use that as a reason, as a way to point the finger at everyone and everything else but ourselves as to why we don't accomplish the things that we, think we want to accomplish.
Holding on to this dream of this ideal career that I'm supposed to want, that I don't think I ever really wanted anyway, was holding me back because it put so much pressure on my creative practice and my music making, and I was holding myself to such a high standard and thinking, well, if I'm going to do something, it has to be part of this big thing, it has to be good enough to be this and that, and it has to be this kind of opportunity and that kind of thing. And I didn't have access to any of those opportunities. Most of us can't just turn around to Hassel Audio or Warp or Ninja Tune or any of these big labels in the electronic music space and just say, hey, here's some music, why don't you put it out for me? We don't have access to these opportunities, and if you're holding every opportunity that comes your way to the standard of here's where things should be, here's where I'm capable of being, here's where I deserve to be, you're never going to do anything. And I wasn't doing anything. I was holding my music to such a high standard, I was holding the opportunities that I said yes to such a high standard. I was only finishing 1 or 2 tracks a year. I was feeling anxious, I was feeling stressed, I was feeling pressured about music, and it made me not want to make stuff. I actively avoided making stuff for a really long time. I wasn't making anything happen. I had lots of goals, I had lots of ideas, I had lots of theories about where I should be, but I wasn't doing anything to make those things happen. But earlier this year, when I kind of went through this realization, part of it was deciding that I wanted to make a habit out of making music every day. You can watch this video up here if you want to learn more about my rules for doing that and how that fits into my life now. I feel so much more free and motivated and creatively energized than I have for years, because I allowed myself to let go of perfection, of these dreams. I finished, I think, 8 tracks in less than 2 months. I'm starting a record label, I'm publishing a zine, and I'm just doing stuff with no expectation that it's gonna go anywhere. And it feels great, it feels amazing. I'm working at a faster pace, finishing stuff so much more quickly. I'm finishing tracks even if I don't know that they're 100% the best that they can be. It feels good to just work on stuff without the expectation that it's gonna be better than the previous track I made, right? It's the law of averages, right? If you throw enough stuff out there, if you take enough swings at the ball, eventually one of them is gonna knock out of the park. I don't really know sports that well. And I think it's an easy trap to fall into because there's this very neoliberal attitude about any kind of, who we are as individuals, what our role in society is, that I think creatives and musicians, we fall into really easily, that says okay, you should be the most effective, the most productive, the most entrepreneurial, most rational actor in the market. You should be maximizing your effectiveness at being a brand, at being a person who creates intellectual property or commodities in the form of music, or who is a performer, and you should build your social media following, and you should reach more and more people all the time and all of that stuff. That has seeped so deep into so many areas of society and into the arts and the music industry in particular in such a strong way that I think we forget that that's like one possible route of many to go down. Bin that off, ignore it, stop worrying about it, and start just making stuff. Because there's another video that I watched, weirdly from Hank Reed of all people. I've forgotten all about the existence of that guy, but he made a video that was about like letting go of your dreams and following your tools instead.
I just think that like having and aiming for a singular dream doesn't work. Like, it means that like a bunch of other things pass by and you just like watch them pass by because they're not the thing you wanted to be. At the core of what has helped make me successful is that I don't have dreams. I don't want to do anything in particular. And that allows me to do two things. Number one, just look at my toolkit, which includes me and includes what I want and includes like the things I'm curious about and my values. But just look at my toolkit and think, what can I do with this? And I am such a project-based learner that without those things, my toolkit would be much more limited. So every time I take my toolkit and I say, okay, I could do this, it turns out my toolkit was not complete enough to actually do that thing. I had to learn a bunch of other stuff along the way.
I fully agree with this idea of like taking into account everything that's currently at your disposal, turning your attention to the things that interest you, that motivate you right here in the moment, and stop kind of holding yourself to this imaginary standard of where you could go or what's theoretically possible for you. And I think if I were trying to kind of distill this idea down into like a prompt or a question that can cut through the bullshit of shoulds and musts and these dreams that we hold ourselves to even when they're not practical or possible or even actually what we want, I think it would be something like, what is in my capacity to do right now? Because it's true, engaging with the tools that I have right now at this moment, whether that's equipment stuff, I've got an audio interface, I've got a mixing desk, I've got a couple of outboard effects, I've got Ableton and Max and MIDI controllers. What can I make with these technologies? What can I make with this interface? And how can I use it to make something that's like interesting to me? Saying, okay, I want to release music. How am I capable of doing that? Well, it's very easy to put stuff out digitally on Bandcamp or a similar service, and you know, maybe we could hand record some cassette tapes, buy a bunch of cheap tapes and whatever. I don't have the ability to release vinyl records because I don't have the capital, I don't have the startup money to invest in that, and that's an incredibly risky thing, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the version of it that is in my capacity right now. By the same token, like, whose music am I going to release? Well, I'm going to release music by my friends who make really cool stuff and the people I'm connected to in my life who need a bit of encouragement, need a bit of a motivation to say, hey, if you finish this, I want to put it out. Like, that's where I should focus my time instead of on this kind of imaginary, idealized version of, well, I need to establish myself as a producer and build up a name for myself and release on these prestigious labels in order for people to see it as worthwhile for me to do what I'm doing. Because I think that's it. I think that is where this whole complex about dreams and goals comes from, is that we seek the approval of industry gatekeepers, our inspirations, people. We invest other people with the ability to say whether what we're doing is worthwhile, instead of allowing that to come from ourselves or from each other, from the people that we're actually connected to. And I think that's where we go wrong. Don't give the ability to say that your music and your artistic career is worthwhile to someone else. Take hold of it and guard it fiercely, because if you just do the thing that is in your capacity to do right now, what's the version of this that I could start today? If you do that, you suddenly become self-assured, self-sufficient, and you are making art for art's sake and sharing it with the people who are important to you. And that is what it's all about. Kill the manager in your head, free the artist in your heart, and go make some cool shit. Go work that shit. Life's too short not to just do the thing that you can do right now. Stop waiting. Be free. Send me the stuff that you're working on because I want to hear it. Peace.